everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Victoria English, top coach with Project 90. I'm very excited for this interview with a Project 90 graduate. She not only hit 90 days, she recently celebrated 1 year alcohol-free. Rana DiOrio is 56 years young. She is a children's media entrepreneur and producer. She's a mother, a friend, and an inspiration. She did a podcast with James when she hit 90 days, and she has kindly agreed to come back and shared what's happened since with me today. Rana, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Victoria. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Rana was one of the attendees to our retreat in January of 22 in Austin. So we've gotten to do the in real life hugs and bonding. That was so special. And she'll share a little bit more about the friendships she's developed in that group. Rana, so you joined us on September 1st, 2021.
Yes.
What were you expecting from this 90-day run? Alcohol-free?
Yeah. So for me, it was an experiment, a challenge. As I shared in my previous podcast, Victoria, my middle daughter had gone back into rehab in August of 2021 after having done a whole cycle of rehab and wilderness and, had a setback.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this need for substances was a theme in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I voluntarily decided to do this parallel process with her and let go of the stronghold that alcohol had on me. And I feel as though, especially during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, intense. I think there were a lot of us who were drinking an ordinary course because there was nothing else to do in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do this in solidarity with her and to demonstrate a couple things. One, that, I could do it, that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need a substance to, function. And two, that I wanted to decouple fun from substances. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
especially young people, believe that they need to be drunk or they need to be high to have a good time. So
Mm-hmm.
there was this conflating that was going on. And I wanted to prove to myself and to her that I could have fun without alcohol. But really at the time that I started, Victoria, it was a 90-day experiment.
Mm-hmm. I recall that it was an experiment to support your daughter. And Rana and I connected because I also had children who struggled with addiction in their earlier years, and they are now also sober from any drugs or alcohol. But I related so much to what you said, and I admired you for taking that step, because as parents, if we are using alcohol as a stress reliever, it's only natural that when we are in crisis with the people we love most in the world, that we want to protect more than anyone in the world, our children, that the pull of alcohol could be quite strong. So I admire that you took this experiment, took it on when you did, as you were going through what I can imagine from my own experience.
It was a very challenging time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing too, Victoria, I went in with a learner's mind because I knew part of the program was really revealing the science of addiction mm-hmm. and, the reasons underlying addiction, and then, the impact that it has mm-hmm. on us in general, and then individually and collectively. And so I went in with an open kind of beginner's mind, and I mm-hmm. learned so much. Yeah. Very meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did. You came in very, very willing to just dive in and find out everything you could. So you went through the 90 days, and during those 90 days, you were in this situation with your daughter. Was it challenging to not turn back to it? Because I think often parents who are going through a difficult family situation might be tempted to kick the can down the road with the drinking. Well, I'll look at my own drinking once I get my kids through this. When the reality is there's no better time to do it than when you are in the trenches. Did you ever have a moment where you thought, I can't do this without drinking? Was there ever that thought?
Honestly, not. I feel as though I had made the commitment, I did the 90 days. And then at the end of that time, Victoria, I felt so good that I just, again, as a curiosity, and at that point, as you'll learn, as people will discover, it gets easier and easier.
Yes.
To not partake. And, as we foreshadowed earlier, it's like, I get to live my life alcohol free. I'm not giving up alcohol, right? It's a privilege. It's a gift that I get to live my life alcohol free. And what was happening, my life got increasingly complicated, as lives do. My dad is failing. He had to move out of his home. He split with my stepmother. I had to find him a new living arrangement. And then I had to transition my oldest into college. So it was like the challenges kept coming. It wasn't like, okay, let me just focus on my middle daughter and get her situated. It's like, life throws you lots of different curveballs, right? And I'll tell you, I was just so grateful to be so clear and so present. And so I was able to respond, not react.
Yes.
To these situations. And I definitely attribute that to being alcohol free.
Well, that goes back to the science of alcohol and what it does to our impulsivity control. Whether you are actively drinking at that moment or not, it does kind of hijack your judgment. And so we stay in a more reactive state instead of being able to pause, self-soothe a little, think things through, and then respond.
Right.
What you said a couple of things. The first thing that struck me was that you kept going after 90 days with a sense of curiosity. That's something that we emphasize, as you know, in our programs, is to simply be curious about this. Often people will join Project 90 with a sense of shame, a lot of self-judgment. And I always invite them to say, you can put the shame and the judgment on a shelf. If you decide to go back to it someday, if you want to live in shame and self-judgment, it will be there. You know how to do that.
Right. You saw that movie.
You've seen that movie. What if you just try something else? What if you get curious about what else might work? And I always saw that in you. And so I love that at the end of 90 days, you said, this feels good. Let's see what it's like to keep going.
Yeah. And I'll just give some props to the power of the model too, Victoria, because there's always people ahead of you, right? There's people that are graduating from 90 and then they come on as guests after their year or 2 year, and they're very inspirational. And unanimously they say, it gets better. And you're kind of incredulous. You don't know that could possibly be, but I can tell you, as someone who's done the journey and done the time at the year mark, it's so much better. I think, just by way of example, my focus is so sharp. My intuition is dead on. I've even gotten to the point where my premonition is incredibly accurate. There are these coincidences that happen all the time, but it's not a coincidence, it's energy, right? And I'm receiving that energy because I'm so clear. And, we mentioned this briefly, Victoria, that alcohol, dulls us, not only our sensations, but it dulls our vibration.
Yes.
As humans, it just dulls us. And when, a year of having no alcohol in my system, I am very resonant, and attuned to the people I care about most. And it's such a gift, like that clarity, that connection. It's interesting. I just finished Young Pueblo's Clarity and Connection. Highly recommend. It was so resonant. But in this state of having no alcohol in my system for that long, it's really a blessing. The other thing that I've noticed is that, when you're drinking and you go to sleep, of course, your sleep is fitful, and we all have had issues with sleep. But the other thing that happens is your body is metabolizing alcohol by necessity. It is a toxin,
right?
And your body needs to eschew it. And so it uses that time when you're, wrestling around in your bed to, rid your body of the toxin. Well, what it's supposed to be doing is all this restorative work and all this deferred maintenance on your body, if you will. And after a year of not tossing and turning and getting really deep, restful sleep, I can feel an enormous difference in my energy and in my vitality. And that's been a very welcome outcome.
Rana and I were speaking about being in our 50s. Rana is 56 and I turn 52 next month. And I think what she just said will resonate with a lot of our listeners, because society, the tide is slowly turning, but you know how it is. A woman in her 50s, oh, well, you're just at that age. You're at that age now. As if we have a hall pass for just sort of accepting that, well, this is good enough. And so often it's what's blocking us on every level, like you said, on a cellular level, our vibration, our ability to recover and nourish ourselves during sleep, during the day. What's standing in our way is the drinking.
Yeah.
And once that is removed, in my experience, at least, and most of our members, especially the women in their 50s, it feels like we have stopped drinking bottles of wine or vodka, and we've started drinking from the fountain of youth.
Yeah, well, I'll speak my own experience, Victoria. So I hear you. And what I think has shifted in me is that, my vibration is higher. I'm kind of exuding positive mojo, and like new opportunities are presenting themselves, both professionally and personally. So just by way of examples and not using names, I had been seeking a corporate board position for a public company for about 5 years. I kind of like set the intention, and, it's not an easy thing to do. But the opportunity presented itself. And, very soon I'll be able to announce me, matriculating onto a public board, which is, and it takes a board seat to get a board seat. So this is kind of probably the beginning of like the next phase of my career. The other thing that happened was I was invited to speak at an inaugural conference on parenthood in Abu Dhabi. This amazing elite group of experts and me.
Yeah.
But I guess, I earned a seat at that table, but, it happened, like I manifested it. And so I'll be doing that in November, which is so exciting. And then I'm being courted to join a very prestigious nonprofit board that's very purpose-driven and in complete alignment with my life's work and my writing and, my values. And so that it just makes me smile that like all this stuff is just kind of lining up. And it's funny when you're in Project 90, it happens to us at different phases. Like you can see people, lose weight or get a promotion or, find their partner. And, everybody's got their own, sequence of events. And for me, it was, getting my tabernacle in order, my own body, and then getting very attuned. And then I started, manifesting the personal and professional opportunities. And so it feels great.
The law of attraction is real.
It is. It
And
certainly is.
being alcohol free, it does raise your vibration. It gives you the ability to notice what is going on around you so that you can engage in those opportunities, so that you can turn away from things which don't serve you.
Right. That's actually a great segue into the other thing that I've noticed, Victoria, is an area of work, like a lifetime area of work that I needed to focus on and had been avoiding, is setting and maintaining healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that. Like, so it's kind of like this cleared space in my life to focus on it. And I've actively been working on it and learning the power of no, because I tend to, and it's not that I'm a pleaser, Victoria. I'm a can-do girl, and I like to help people. And, I just have this proclivity to say yes. And that's not helping, long-term objectives and me serving the people who need me the most. So I really have to be more judicious about that. But I've been able to look at it and learn from, my past behavior. And, I don't think I would have been in a position to do that had I been drinking. I would have just, kept on doing what I had been doing.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed personally, since I stopped drinking, and also with our members, we coach around this sometimes. I ask the question, can we really expect others to honor and respect our boundaries if we haven't respected them with ourselves?
Absolutely.
If our boundary, say around drinking, is consistently violated by us, if we make promises to ourselves, I'm not going to drink until Friday. Well, it's Wednesday. So we break promises to ourselves. I found that when I could live authentically and as my true self, boundaries became much easier because I wasn't living two separate lives. I was just me. And so it made it easier to establish and hold boundaries with others. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't necessarily with drinking. But as I said, the clarity that came from that was what catalyzed this phase of my learning. For me, it was, I'm a giver, Victoria. I get great pleasure in giving. I feel as though I receive so much more through giving, but sometimes I just give it too much. And then it gets to the point where you're almost resentful because it's not only not appreciated, it's not acknowledged. And that's on me. That's totally on me. Right. Mm-hmm. So recognizing that and fine tuning, what's enough and where to stop. And that's hard work to figure that out, just in general, but also vis-a-vis all of the intimate and important relationships in your life. But yeah. And by the way, when you're drinking, you can't even begin to go there, right? Because you're just numb and you go on autopilot, right? You do what you have done historically, because that's the pattern of behavior that's been fostered, right?
Hi, this is Victoria English, Senior Coach at Project 90, the program that helps high achievers stop drinking either temporarily or permanently. If you're an executive, entrepreneur, investor, physician, or other high achiever and know you're drinking too much, if you know your current drinking habits are compromising your sleep, relationships, health, and your happiness, and you're ready to finally get your drinking under control by quitting for either at least 90 days or 1 year, you are invited to apply to become a Project 90 client. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, yes, I said fun, private virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts an incredible 92% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/Project 90. You'll likely speak directly with me or one of our other coaches. Are you ready to stop for at least 90 days? Are you ready to stop for at least 1 year? If so, we can help. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first-come, first-served basis. If there are no remaining interview times available, wait a few weeks and try again. Schedule your 15-minute initial application interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/Project 90. Let's get back to the show. I think what you just said is common with many people, especially mothers, especially women. We want to care for, we want to nurture, we want to fix, we want to help. The question is, are we doing that first for ourselves? And we pour into others with an expectation that they'll see it, that they'll recognize it, that they'll appreciate it. And when that doesn't happen as we expect, to your point, it can lead to harboring resentments, which is, I think, to me, resentments are dangerous, very dangerous.
Oh, yeah,
Whether your default is drinking, like mine was, or something else, but those thought patterns are very, very dark and dangerous. And talk about blocking good things, good energy, good vibes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to, on the flip side of that, Victoria, we haven't touched on this yet. And I mentioned this briefly in my discussion with James at 90 Days, to notice that I was able to experience joy in a way I hadn't for a long time. As we know, alcohol is a depressant,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a really long time to completely purge it from your system. So after a year, I can tell you that I've experienced highs like unlike I've ever experienced before. And laughter comes really easily. I can joke about myself. And I wanted to give a specific example. So I got really close to my oldest daughter during COVID. She was a senior in high school during lockdown, and we went through the whole college admissions process together. And we're very fortunate she got into her top choice school. And like all of my friends were really concerned about me because, she and I are incredibly similar as people, and we got really close. And, with my middle daughter off at boarding school and only having my son part of the time, I was pretty much going to be an empty nester. And I am. So people were just kind of very aware of the situation. So I think the summer was an adjustment period for the both of us. We had a lot of overlap time and some really incredible experiences together. And then we had some kind of trial runs apart from one another. But I will tell you unequivocally that college drop off for my daughter and I was spectacular. Like I have goosebumps telling you this. I have
goosebumps hearing it. Oh my gosh.
I was so grateful and so excited and so present. And it was euphoria. I was experiencing euphoria. And we raised her to be very independent, and she was doing exactly what she was supposed to be doing. And she was spreading her wings, to use the cliche, but it was beautiful to witness. And I left feeling so like my cup was overflowing. It was really amazing. Yeah.
That gets me emotional too, as a mother. I know there are mothers listening right now who are experiencing the senior, it's the fall of their senior year. They're going to be leaving soon. And moms, trust me on this. Don't drink over it. Lean into it. Enjoy this last year of having your kids at home so that when you do that drop off, you can experience what Rana just described, saying, I did a great job here. I did a great job with this kid. She's ready. Our relationship is fantastic, and I can let her fly now.
Victoria, life happens in the micro moments, in those little micro interactions. And over the past year, I've had so many meaningful micro moments with all of my children. but especially Ryan, because my oldest, because she lived with me, 100%. And it was such a blessing. And had I been drinking, I would have been numbed out. I wouldn't have experienced, a fraction of them, and then what happens is they learn that you are there for them. Bingo. And you get to be privy to what's going on in that very complicated teenage brain of theirs. And they rely on you. They trust you. And I'll tell you, even so, I'm only 2 weeks into this odyssey with having my oldest off at college, but the quality of our interaction is stunning. Like what she trusts me with, what she wants to vet with me. It's next level. And I'm telling you, and I don't know that we would have gotten to that point had I been drinking last year. She would have gone to another resource or relied on friends, peers, but I earned in to that place of trust and respect. And it's very unconscious. Please understand, this isn't like, oh, mom's drinking, I'm not going to ask her, what to do about this situation with my boyfriend. It's, she's had good outcomes trusting me with that type of dialogue. And so she came back again and again.
Yes.
It's awesome. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
It 100%.
Yeah.
It's, you earned that spot. I describe it as a quiet knowing. I have my older 3 in their 20s, and there's an understanding now that they can call me about anything. And they do.
Yeah.
That would have never happened if I'd continued drinking.
Right.
I was further down the slide of drinking, I think, than you were, Rana, but nonetheless, experiences are different, but feelings are the same. And when a teen walks into a room with a parent who is drinking, whether it's 2 or 3 glasses or a bottle, I would polish off a bottle if I was going to open one. Why waste good wine? What am I going to do with 2 ounces left in the bottom of the bottle? But there's a shift in the energy, and they notice. And so when they walk through that door, they're feeling which way the wind is blowing. It doesn't mean that you have to be out of your mind drunk. I wasn't out of my mind drunk. I was usually in the kitchen cooking dinner.
Yep.
But
listening to music, happy,
listening to music,
yeah.
but numbed out, not noticing those micro moments.
Here's the other thing too that I noticed, Victoria, is that because you're so clear, you are so situationally aware.
Oh, yes.
And so you know when to ask the evocative question, right? That starts the meaningful conversation. And that's been really special with all 3 of my children, like just knowing, like meeting them where they are, and just showing up for them in the way they need you in that moment, and starting a conversation with just the right question because you're on the same wavelength as they are. That doesn't happen when you're drinking. It just doesn't. Yeah. No,
it just doesn't.
Happens with friends too. Like we're talking about children, but to make it more broadly applicable, this happens with people, when you're dialed in, and you're situationally aware, it's a different dynamic or professionally, with your friends, with your parents, and life is much more rich and full and rewarding because you're connecting really deeply with people you care about most. Yeah.
You are a gifted writer, but a gifted speaker. And so are you're articulating just beautifully what this is like. And I'm just sitting here nodding my head. And for our listeners, this is within reach. This is what happens. This is the gift. And there are too many to list, but Rana has talked about how her sleep. I know you had mentioned your skin. You used to think you had crepey skin. You realized you were just dehydrated from
Yep.
alcohol.
Yep.
The quality of her relationships with her children, the professional opportunities that she's attracted through this clarity. I know you mentioned in your personal life, you're attracting different types of friends.
Yeah. So let's split that up a little bit. So I think, we all know that we kind of morph into the 5-6 people that we surround ourselves most with, right? I mean, like that's science too. So I think through this process, Victoria, I've really, and it's, at first it was unintentional and now it's more intentional. I've been really judicious about who I'm giving my energy to, who I'm exchanging energy to, who is helping me to call me on my stuff and level me up, right? Who's helping me to become my best self. So, in my friendships. And then as, we kind of ended the podcast with James, I'm dating, I'm actively seeking my sacred partner. I feel as like my whole life has led me up to this point. And, I'm 56 years young, Victoria, and I'm going to find him. And it's interesting, I'm starting to meet people who are more on the spectrum of really excited that I don't drink and have committed to being the best mom possible and are really dedicated to making my sacred partner come first. And so, I'm confident I'll find him. I might have already, but we'll see.
I can't wait to find out. It's been an honor to have walked with you through part of your journey. Before we wind up, I'd like you to share a little bit about the friendships that you came away with.
Yeah.
After your Project 90 experience.
If this is so the universe smashes you together with like amazing people like top coach Victoria and James and others. And then you have your cohort of people that you're working with in Project 90. And they're all at different phases, right? They're all day 1 to day 90 and everything in between. And you get really close to these people. You're very invested in them personally and their stories. And it's funny, I described to my kids, that I was going to this retreat in Austin, and they were kind of like, huh? And I said, well, think of it. It's like you got really, hooked on this TV show, and you really identify with the characters in the TV show. And then you have the opportunity to go meet them in real life. I mean, how cool would that be? Yeah. So it was like that. And so I've walked away with some lifetime friendships, people who are older than I am, people who are younger than I am, people who are my age, all over the world. I'm visiting one P90 graduate in London. I'll visit another one in Tokyo. I've gone on vacation with another on 3 different trips. We're planning a 4th. I'm investing in growth stage companies with another. I've adopted 2 others as my brothers. So like really, this is significant relationships.
Yeah.
Victoria, they're not acquaintances. Like I really care about these people. I know their wives and husbands and children, and we exchange gifts. And it's just very, very special. And thank you for that. And thank James for ideating this program. And thank you for carrying the torch and, showing up for us and being vulnerable, because that's what makes it most meaningful, because you're sharing your experiences and your stories and meeting us where we are. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I received that. This work takes my breath away. It does. I'm getting emotional. When we are drinking, all we really want is connection. And we want to feel seen and heard and understood. And when a new member comes in and they do what you did, they come in with that mindset of curiosity and let's see what this is about. And they just allow themselves to lean into this group and be vulnerable, often for the first time around some of these topics, starting with drinking. And then they begin to feel safe. And then they begin to connect first with themselves, but then with others. It is giving us all of the things that alcohol promised: connection, safety, joy.
Yeah, only in a much more meaningful,
but it's
way,
real.
right? Yeah.
Right. Because if alcohol does provide that, it's simply a biochemical reaction happening in your brain, and it will fade after about 30 minutes. Right. This is real. This is stuff that you'll carry for the rest of your life.
Well, this is the thing. Alcohol masks what we need to work on, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And when you take the mask off, it becomes apparent, and all of us are different. We're all working on different things, but it becomes apparent what it is you have to work on. And then you set to the task of working on your stuff, and all kinds of things can happen. The possibilities are endless, right?
All kinds of things. Yes. Well, you certainly have a lot of blessings that you are open to receiving, and you've shared so much with our community. Thank you for all that you do, being honest and vulnerable in sharing your story and supporting the members as they go through. And thank you for coming back after 1 year alcohol-free to keep us updated. And I'd like you to come back when you hit year 2.
I would be honored, and I'm forever grateful to you and James, Victoria. Thank you.
This is how we roll, people. So
peace out.
Peace out. Yes. Thank you so much for being here, Rana. I know we'll stay in touch, and I am anticipating I will see you in just a few months, wherever we have our 2023 retreat.
I'll be there.
I'll be there with bells on. We'll be living it up. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, you can book a discovery call, have a chat with me or one of our other fabulous coaches. Let's see if you're a fit for Project 90. You can do that at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Until next time, everyone, take care. Have a beautiful day.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little 1-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.